Hey, this is John, and this is the second tutorial in a series of tutorials teaching you how you can get models among other assets into Source Filmmaker. This video is going to be talking about the file paths and mods and how those work in relation to the two scripts we have here, which are the QC file and the VMT file. And you don't really need to know anything about these two things yet. That's fine. I'm just going to be talking about two specific aspects of these. And we went over what these two things are in general in the last video, which was an introduction talking about the general process for compiling and what files and programs there are in relation to that. So let's first talk about a file path. What is a file path? Well, if I look right here, right, this is just, the file browser in Windows. This right here, it's a shortcut for a file path, but if I click on C, and look right here, this is a file path, right? It's just saying that's the address of the hard drive. So let's get into a little more depth here. Let's locate our Source Filmmaker folder. So let's go to Program Files x86, then go to Steam, and then Steam Apps, Common, Source Filmmaker, and then Game. And so if we look up here, now we have a much longer file path. And basically a file path is just an address that specifies where a folder or a file is on your computer. That's all there is to it. And you see here it's represented by, just the names of the folders, then backslashes, stuff like that. So really simple, and you can click in here and you can copy it even if you want to. So here we are in the Source Filmmaker folder, and now let's talk about mods. What is a mod in relation to Source Filmmaker? Well, a mod is just a folder that contains, models and materials, and it can also contain sounds and save files and particles, stuff like that. It's just basically a folder that contains information that SFM can use, and you can find that information in SFM by just searching for it. For example, if you're looking for a model, you search for it, right? Say you're looking for the TF2 Scout. Well, that model is located in the TF2 mod, which is here, right? It's going to be located somewhere in the models folder. And that brings me to another point. Each one of these mods, something they always have in common is that there will always be a folder called models, and there will always be a folder called materials. Now, I'm pretty sure you can guess what these two are for. The models is for models, and the materials is for the materials and textures, right? So we have a mod that we use, and everyone has. This one is called user mod, and there's also another one called workshop, and that's where stuff you download from the workshop will go. But as far as importing things into Source Filmmaker, we use the user mod. And you can also create your own mod, but that's a topic for another video. So you can see here we have our models and we have our materials folder, and this is important to understand because, say, when you compile things, right, the compiler always assumes models go in the models folder and the materials go in the materials folder. And so, say when you're trying to specify a file path for something like where the final MDL is going to get spat out to, you only need to specify the subfolder inside models where it's going to go. So if I go to models, you see I have a bunch of subfolders here, and you don't necessarily need them, but it's very good to have because you want to be organized, right? Otherwise you have a bunch of files that pop out at the bottom there, and that looks really stupid. It's hard to find things. So you want to, when you're doing stuff, you want to use subfolders, and everything is going to be inside the models folder when it comes to models. Everything's, when it comes to materials and textures, are going to be located somewhere inside the materials folder. So let's take a look here at the QC, and again, you don't need to know anything about the QC. I'm just using this as an example, and it'll come up in later videos because, it's important that you understand how the file system works, file paths and stuff for SFM. So right here I specify a full file path, right? This is the first one. I'm specifying a full file path. This is because I need to tell the compiler where the DMX and SMD files are located that it's going to be compiling. If you don't know what any of this stuff is as far as QCs and SMDs and VMTs go, watch the last video, which is again talking about kind of a general introduction on how the compiling process works, what files and programs are related to that. Anyway, so this is a full file path, right? And the reason I specify this is because I need to tell it exactly which files it's going to be using. But then if I go down one, right, this is the model name. This is the line that tells the compiler where the final MDL is going to be spat out to, and the MDL is just, is the file the SFM will use when you search for stuff and you put it in, right? It's the compiled version of the model. And you see here, all I specify is sphere folder / beautiful sphere.mdl, and beautiful sphere.mdl, that's the name of the file it's going to spit out. And then sphere folder right here, this first part, is a subfolder. And the subfolder is located in the in the models folder. So if I go here This is where it's located, sphere folder, and it created that folder, right? When I compiled it not too long ago, it created this sphere folder, and inside of the sphere folder, it put, oh look, there it is, the beautiful sphere.mdl, right? So it assumed already that it was going into the models folder, and it put it right there. Now, how do you know which mod it's going to be using? Well, that's pretty simple. And when we get into the compiler part of it with Crowbar, we'll be talking about how you can specify which mod files are going to be put into. But that's for another video. Don't worry about it for now. All you need to know is that that's where it puts it, okay? You only need to specify the subfolder. And then the next thing, which is going to be, materials. So let me go back to user mod, and then we go to my materials folder. And then let me go back to my QC. You'll see that if I go to the line that specifies which materials are going to be used, or excuse me, where the materials are, right here, CD materials, this is just saying where the materials are located for the model, alright? And I just specify beautiful sphere. Now what is this? Well, that's the name of the subfolder inside of materials. So if I go to materials, I have a subfolder here called beautiful sphere, and inside of this subfolder I put the VMT, which is the material, and I also put the VTF, which is the texture. So the the model now knows where the materials are and it can use them, which is great. And then the next part of this is the VMT itself, which again is the material. If I look right here, this line is specifying where and what the diffuse texture is basically, right? And so right here, this is just the template, but we're going to use it here as our example. Subfolder, right? I wrote that in there. Well, that basically means I'm specifying the subfolder inside materials, which in our case, see, I'm in materials, and then I have beautiful sphere. That's our subfolder. All right. And then in there, this next part, the last part, is going to be what the texture is called, which in our case would be beautiful VTF. So I would put that right here. All right, and you don't need to specify any other part of the file path. You don't need to, take this entire thing and drop that in there. You only need the subfolder and then the name of the file itself, and that goes for the VMT, that goes for the QC. So keep that in mind. It'll make it, things a lot simpler. That's a problem, it's that people that are new to compiling run into often that I see is that they don't know exactly how to reference where their files are at. All you need to do is reference the subfolder in either models or materials, and then the name of the file. That's all there is to it, okay? Hopefully that made sense, all right? And now this is important because I need you to understand how this file path system works for compiling into SFM and how the mods kind of work in order to, get a better grasp on how to do the VMTs and the QCs in the later videos, all right? So if you don't know anything about these two things yet, that's fine. I just need to understand how kind of the mods system works inside of SFM, okay? So that's all there is to this video. It was probably, it's probably going to be one of the shortest videos in this tutorial series, which is fine. That's great. So let me go ahead and finish up here by saying that, yeah, this is important to know. So that's good. Now that you know it, we can move on. So thanks for watching. I'm John, and the next video I believe in the series is going to be, let me see, talking about SMD and DMX files. So we're going to get into that in the next video. So go ahead and like this video if you liked it. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and then go check out that next video in the series. Thanks for watching. My name's John again, and I'll see you in the next one.